Floyd Mayweather Jr., unbeaten, most effective prize fighter in the world.
Believe me, I'm the best.
There's a knockdown on Olympic. Oh, it's all over. Mayweather makes him pay.
Puerto Rican star Miguel Cotto, one of the most dramatic figures in boxing.
Cotto caught him a nice left hook. Two left hooks and down the line again. That's the knockout victory that Cotto was looking for.
There's a new superstar in Puerto Rico.
Oh yes, straight away you will have noticed a new set. No expense has been spared. We're not in Las Vegas, we're still in Shepherd's Bush, but what a set. Absolutely fantastic. You'll get to see more of the shag pile carpet and the leather sofas very shortly. This is a special 60-minute absolute preview show, nothing but preview show, nothing but Cotto, nothing but Mayweather, and a little bit of Canelo, and to be honest with you, Shane Mosley. That's at the end. There should be a whole host of people joining us. There should be a whole host of greats out there picking up the phone and joining us. Guys that have fought both of them, guys that have been in with one of them, guys that have been in with the other one. Legendary trainers are going to be picking up the phone. Our very own Steve Lillis will be live from Las Vegas. That's right, let's be reverential and respectful at all times. It's going to be that type of show. We're going to boost it, we're going to bang it, and the one thing I'm going to keep on stressing and keep on pushing to you is if you want to be part of this, if you want to buy in, if you want to experience this thing that's going to happen at about 2 o'clock tomorrow morning, if you want to be ringside with us at the MGM, you're going to have to subscribe. You've got to get on now and pay your money. Because you know what happens if you don't do it now. There's always a chaos. There's always chaos. There's a history. Even in America, no matter what it is, things go wrong. You've got to organise this now so that you can have a relaxing Saturday. You can watch me on ESPN. You can watch a little bit of the FA Cup, knowing full well that when you decide to watch Hacken Afolabi from Germany, and when you decide to sit down with your popcorn, your soft drinks, or your beer, or your hookah pipe, or whatever, I don't care, when you sit down to watch the big one at about 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, Mayweather against Cotto, you've got to make sure you subscribe there and then, because I don't want hundreds of people tweeting me screaming, Bunsey, tell them to sort it out. I'm trying to subscribe. No, it's not going to work at 3 in the morning. It's going to be difficult. You've got to get on it now. You've got to sort it out. Well, that's officially the longest opener we've ever had in the history of Box Nation. We've been going 6 or so months now, loving every second of it. First guest tonight, first man we're going to talk to is a man that's been around some big fights, been in the changing room, been up in the dressing room for big fights, and will give us a feel of what goes on and what will be going on and what we can expect once those two get to the MGM Grand tomorrow night. Start preparing, getting their heads right, and making that long walk out to that fabulous ring, the MGM ring. It's seen some great stuff. Please welcome first guest tonight on the special preview show, Dean Powell. Thank you very much. No hallelujah, you would have noticed, Dean. Don't take that personally. Dean, it's a big fight. It's a fight that possibly should have happened a few years ago. For a variety of reasons, it didn't. The story of boxing, but still a valid fight now.
Yeah, it's a valid fight, and it's a great fight, and it's a great occasion for Box Nation.
Yeah, it certainly is a great occasion for Box Nation. When you first heard rumours of this being, talked about last year, of course, Cotto still had a big problem. He had to exercise that demon Margarito last December, because this fight was as good as made before that fight. Did you expect him to do the job he did against Margarito, Dean?
Yeah, I did actually. I felt it would be a tough fight, and I feel that probably Cotto had it in his mind that to create this fight with Floyd, that he had to put on a great performance. And I think some fighters can't look you know, more than one fight ahead.
Sure.
But I think he'd got that in his mind, and I think that was what really switched it on and gave it on, and he put on a great performance.
And of course, he had to also get rid of Margarito. He had to get rid of him, not just in the ring, but more importantly, Dean, and you know this from working with fighters for the last 25 years, he had to get rid of him inside his head.
Yes, he did, and he certainly did that as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely did that. So if you look at that, if you look at it that way, his preparation has been a million miles better than Mayweather's. Mayweather was having a scrappy, nothing-in-it fight with Ortiz before the legal sucker punch ended it.
Yeah, but I think, Steve, you can look at it the other way as well. You know, he's a great athlete, Mayweather.
Yeah.
He's got himself in fabulous condition, what it looks like. And Cotto's had a lot of tough fights.
Every fight seems to be tough.
You know, every fight, even you look at his early fights, you know, he kind of made them hard. So I think that balances itself out, really.
Yeah, I think it probably does too. Stay there, Dean. Now, listen, if you want to get in touch with me tonight, it's quite simple. You can email us here at the show. It's bunts@boxnation.com. And also one thing I'm looking for, and I'm going to build this up through to tomorrow's show, is I need to know from you who's going to win. Just tell me who's going to win. Just name the fighters. Bang, bang, bang. I don't need your life story. Just bang, bang, bang. That way I can read out more of them. And equally, you can reach me on Twitter. It's at Big Daddy Bunts. Now, Dean mentioned there that Mayweather's got himself in great shape, and I'm going to talk to Dean a bit about that in a moment, and I know why he said that. But we've actually got our man out there, a man that would be plonked over there on the sofa, getting ready to watch his beloved Fulham. Instead, we stuck him on a jet plane, a bit like an Elton John song, sent him out, landed in Vegas. He's been our man and our ears and our mouth in Vegas all week, and it's a delight to welcome, making his debut this week on Box Nation, Steve Lillis. Steve-O.
Morning, chaps, or is it evening where you are, isn't it? Eh?
You know exactly when it is. Don't fib. Don't make
Just being a bit Harry Dash there, aren't I?
You are a bit of Batsy coming into you. Listen, Steve-O, quite seriously, now I know from speaking to you, you've been very impressed with Mayweather. What's different this time then? What's giving you the extra bit of respect for what you've seen?
Just this mad hour with him the other day, Bunty. It was just amazing the subjects he covered, what he's been through in life. He went freakish about Pacquiao. I don't think we should say too much about that, given all the legal stuff that's going on between them.
Sure.
And I just think he's there for this. There's people mention how he didn't look great against Ortiz, but look, away from what he gets up to when he's in nightclubs, he is the consummate professional in the gym. And he's never been not right for a fight, Steve.
Now, Steve, one of the advantages of being over in Vegas and being around the press room and floating around and picking up things and listening is that you do pick up things, you do hear things. Are there any reports, anything to suggest he's cut any corners in any way, shape?
None whatsoever, Steve. And what the point he keeps bringing up as well a lot this week is how he's looked after himself. He's never had wars. Insinuating that Cotto hasn't just had the wars in the defeats against Margarito and Manny, but the hard fights Cotto's had. Someone said to him how this came up, someone said to him the other day, well, you'd already won a world title before he turned professional. And that's what sparks him into the rant about freshness and never being hurt and never being in wars.
I'm wondering, Stephen, I don't know, maybe you've asked him or maybe someone there's mentioned it. Do you think he'd take on a Cotto that looks as good as this Cotto if he'd have had a 22-month gap or an 11-month gap? Because it's only been a 6-month gap or whatever. It's not bad, is it? It's fairly normal.
And it's funny you should say that. When we come out of that mad hour with him at the MGM the other day, his publicist, Kelly Swanson, she mentioned how busy, how it was important that he's been busy before this fight. So, the fact that she just brought that in an off-the-cuff remark, Steve...
Which she didn't need to say.
But she didn't need to say, and you just mentioned that, you bring that up, that doesn't mean that... And she's in the inner circle, so she knows what's been discussed.
Yeah.
If he'd come into this, the fight before Victor Ortiz was Shane Mosley 2 years ago.
Yeah, good point.
Where he hardly broke sweat in that fight.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'd come straight from a Mosley to a Cotto who's reinvented himself over the last couple of years.
Yeah, fun enough. Now we'll talk a little bit about Cotto. Now I know that he's a fan, a favourite of yours, but I know that at the same time most of your time there's been spent monitoring what Mayweather does. Are you hearing anything from inside the Puerto Rican icon's gym?
No, nothing. Hey, I don't think anyone hears anything inside the Cotto's gym. He comes in, he answers questions with one sentence. He's been out in Florida. A lot's been made of, this Cuban trainer. Is it Diaz who he's got in?
Yeah.
But when Mayweather was asked about him the other week, he pointed across the room to his pal who's with him in the camp, Yurkis Gamboa, and said Gamboa knows all about him. He bashed all these men up in Cuba.
Yeah, and in all fairness, that's true because Gamboa is a little bit vicious, and if the guy had anybody up for about cruiserweight, Gamboa would have probably still bashed him up, to be perfectly honest.
He does look, it's the first time I've been close to Gamboa, and I find it hard to believe, Steve, he's super featherweight, lightweight.
Yeah, well, remember they had that famous... Well, he actually won it. He won the Olympic medal, his first Olympic medal, I think, was at light fly, if I'm not mistaken, or was that Rigganda? I get the two of them confused, but I know that they quite comfortably jump three or four weight categories.
You can see it. He's not the tallest, but he's as square as he is tall at the moment. Looking at him,
he certainly.
And he looks a bit one of those Cuban playboys, though. So I'm not sure where his career is going to go.
Steve, I wouldn't have an idea what a playboy looked like, mate, if you don't mind me saying so. I mean, I'm pleased that you are now, worldly wise, and you've been in Vegas, and you obviously have identified if you walk down the street and you go, oh, look at that, a playboy. Oh, there's a plumber. I don't know. It's a strange conversation we're having. Listen, Steve, but here's the other thing. You're in and out of the MGM. You're on the strip. You're floating around. You're at press conferences. Then you may have even gone to the fights last night. I don't know because always fights on a Friday. Let me ask you this: does it feel? Are you in a fight city for a big fight? You know what I mean by that.
100%, Steve. I've been to Vegas a lot lately, and you haven't felt like a big fight till 2-3 days before. Even Pacquiao Cotto, it was pretty quiet on the strip till the Thursday. But the place has been buzzing all week. And those grand arrivals they have, Steve,
of course,
they do so well out in Vegas.
Big things
it was mobbed in the MGM Grand for that the other day. And I've been to these arrivals over the last couple of years, and there's literally been a man and his dog there. But the place has been buzzing all week, and there's a lot of Britons out there at the moment. And what was quite funny the other day, when Mayweather made his arrival at the hotel and got in the ring and waved to everybody, he was greeted by about 50 guys singing There's Only One Ricky Hatton.
And I bet he loved it.
He loved every minute of it. He started doing the famous conducting again. And he's obviously got a thing about the UK, because when he was doing his rant against Pacquiao the other day, he was blasting these American journalists and told them he gets more love in Britain than he does in America, and he beat up their hero.
Well, you know what? I'm always telling Schaefer and Ellaby the same thing, that they do get plenty of love here, and he'd sell out any venue he liked here. He could box a shadow and do 20,000 tickets at the O2. That's an absolute fact. That's just a fact.
He wanted to come here, Steve.
Of course. Listen, after the Ricky fight, we all know after the Ricky fight, he was desperately trying to speak to Ricky, trying to do something with Ricky, not a fight, desperately trying to get it on with Ricky. He wanted that fan base, because listen, if you think about it, Steve, you don't have to be a professional psychologist to work this out. The one thing he didn't have, is getting it now, is he didn't have genuine love from his fans. Certainly not in 2007 when he fought Ricky. Oddly, he seems to have gained that love now.
And that's right. And I'm wondering what sort of support he's going to get tomorrow, because it's a big Hispanic weekend.
Yeah.
And the Hispanics, even the Mexicans, have that respect for Cotto. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the crowd are with Cotto tomorrow night.
But it's just, Steve, he's been there before with De La Hoya on the 5th of the 5th, whenever it was, with Ricky. He's been there. He you know what? That's the work, in my opinion. If you think you're going to try and out hustle Mayweather by having a lot of fans there, well, look at the Ricky crowd that night. For God's sake, there were 38,000 Brits in town and Irish that had travelled over. It was intimidating. I felt intimidated, and I'm British, so Mayweather gets in the ring. If you'd have measured his heartbeat, it wouldn't have been above the normal rate of a 60-year-old walking a dog by the canal, because he's a freak.
And a few months before that, he beat Oscar De La Hoya, and Oscar De La Hoya in Vegas, as you say, he could fight a wooden door. There'll be 16,000 fans saying it was a great performance if he won a split decision against the door.
I'm starting to get worried now, because I was at an Oscar De La Hoya weigh-in in Vegas once, and women threw loads of knickers at him. He maybe had 100 pairs of knickers, and in light of what happened later on, perhaps that was the root of it. Steve, we might come back to you later on. If not, we'll speak to you live from the weigh-in. Steve Lillis out there.
Thanks, chaps.
Thanks very much. That's right, doing a good job. Well, I tell you, he's made a couple of valid points there, Steve, hasn't he, to be honest with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing is that there seems to be this... You keep saying about Miguel Cotto's reinvented himself, but I think over the last couple of months, maybe Mayweather's reinvented himself as well. Yeah. And Steve said that he noticed a change in certain things. Yeah. And I've been speaking to Chris Sanigar and Tunde Ajay.
They've been out there. They've both been in the gym.
Yeah, they've been out there. Chris had Lee Selby sparring over there, and Tunde's got young Cotto over there, and they've seen Mayweather very, very close up. And Chris told me that he looked phenomenal in sparring with two real big, solid middleweights, super middleweights, you know.
I mean, I suppose that would be standard to get those big guys in. But from what you're saying and from what I've seen and from talking to Lillis, it does seem that he's taking it very seriously. It does seem, Dean, that the preparation for this is just that little bit extra, just that little bit more. And do you think that's because, you know, also the fact that he hasn't had a big break? Do you think that's because he's looking at Cotto and he's wondering, I wonder if he's got one or two big fights left in him? And if that's the case, I've got to have to be a bit special here tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure that he's got his mind totally focused on Cotto and probably thinking, you know, get to that stage, he knows he's had a lot of tough fights, but he hasn't really showed in the last couple of fights that it may be coming to the, you know, may be coming to the end.
Yeah, good point.
So nobody knows. We might get some questions answered tomorrow night, but I think the key here as well, he will want to do a better performance than Pacquiao.
Yeah, that's the most basic thing, isn't it, Dean?
Yeah.
And it's the you know what it is? It's like the elephant in the room, because no one wants to actually come out and say this is all about Mayweather bashing up Cotto more than Pacquiao bashed him up, because he bashed him up terribly. In fact, I've done that as my main preview in tomorrow's paper. Listen, Dean, stick there. We're now going to hopefully show, we're going to get some guests. The guests are queuing up. There's only obviously one phone they can use at the MG, and they're queuing up there. But we're going to now look back at a fight that took place on the 5th of the 5th, 2007, and it holds the record for generating more money on pay-per-view than any fight in history. Yes, more than anything, more than Tyson, more than Lewis, more than anything. It generated $134 million. It was, of course, as Steve Lillis has just mentioned, Oscar De La Hoya in his pomp. Grand, surrounded by 20,000 screaming and adoring Oscar De La Hoya fans. And Mayweather, when he still had a bit more of that bad boy. Here's a round from that. Well, I think it was a brilliant, brilliant night and a brilliant fight.
Here in Las Vegas, this place sold out. The Thomas and Mack Center's got 20,000 people in it. This is round number 7. De La Hoya in red. Mayweather, red, white, and green, the Mexican flag colors. Red, white, and green shoes. It's Cinco de Mayo, a big Mexican holiday. So he's trying to capitalize on it. Tried to win some fans over by doing that, but he didn't. Here's Oscar, caught him with the right hand. And here he is getting off first again. This is what Oscar has to do. He just smiles at him, and Oscar says, you don't smile at this.
Let him up.
Kenny Bennett doing a terrific job in his biggest stage, too. Well, a big night for a referee, and Kenny has really earned it. I'm glad he's got it, and he's doing a great job. Not interfering with the fight at all, yet keeping it clean. Floyd with the hand speed, crashes to the back of the skull.
Mayweather took the first minute of the round off and let De La Hoya build a big lead in the round. Let's see now how it plays out.
He's so skilled, Dave. The guy amazing. I mean, I love Oscar because he's such a big star and he's great for boxing. But this kid is sensational. What a fighter is Mayweather. It's just phenomenal. Look at him smiling. He loves it. Look at him grinning. He's took the first minute off. He's not doing enough offensively to win this round.
No, he's basically letting De La Hoya come at him the entire round. And well, maybe he'll try to steal it at the end, but this has been De La Hoya's round. And, you know, maybe each guy will have to take one of these throughout the next 6 rounds. And perhaps Mayweather just decided this one is his. But this is a very good-looking De La Hoya here in round 7.
With a minute to go in round number 7, Oscar having a good 7th round. Jab, jab, his Floyd right back.
Bring him up.
Kenny says keep him up. 2 good body shots, borderline by Floyd. Oscar goes downstairs looking to throw the right hand. Bang, bang. He doesn't get in too tight and isn't able to unload it. He's going to watch himself coming back. Kenny has him break clean. Oscar sees continues to enter without throwing. I don't like that. I think it's dangerous for Floyd. He can counter him here.
Well, you want to be jabbing your way in because, you know, Mayweather has been loading up on that right hand, but this is a round that he decided to fight in spurts, and this is a easy round for De La Hoya.
Well, it's certainly a good round with 10 seconds to go. Oscar wants to put an exclamation point on it, and he's doing that. Floyd was doing all the grinning and fooling around. He gave this round away. As the bell ends the 7th, that's a De La Hoya round.
Subscribe now, boxnation.com. Pay your tenner because tomorrow it gets busier. Tomorrow night it gets really busy. By midnight it's frantic. After midnight it's unbelievably busy. That's the way it works when you're buying a fight. So I need you to subscribe now. Get that out the way so you can have a nice relaxing evening and a nice relaxing day tomorrow. Just to remind you, we're back at 10:30 tonight. We're back at 10:30 tonight for the weigh-in live. All of the main fighters, Canelo Alvarez, Shane Mosley, and also obviously Mayweather against Cotto. We will be in Las Vegas live for it. Dean Powell's with me in the studio. Dean, looking at that bit of Oscar De La Hoya there against Mayweather, it was a tight fight, not a lot in it, but more than that, you forget at times how confident and how good De La Hoya looked.
Yeah, well, you know, like we said, Steve, I've seen the fight endless times. I've probably watched it 20 times. And I still believe that De La Hoya won. And I think the interesting point is, I think this comes with the horses for courses with the trainers and cornermen. And I really...
Of course, he had Freddie Roach that night, didn't he,
yeah,
Oscar?
Yeah, and I really believe, you know, no disrespect to Freddie Roach, but I think on that occasion that he needed... What De La Hoya needed was an Angelo Dundee, an Emanuel Steward, a Teddy Atlas, a Jimmy Tibbs type character.
A guy that could drag him up.
To say, get out there and fight. You're falling a little bit, you know.
That's an interesting point, Dino, and it's one that I was a bit concerned during the last Amir Khan fight against Lamont Peterson as the rounds went on there. I was waiting for someone to basically reach down and drag Khan up, which they didn't. Listen, I think they won't make the mistake again in the next match. Dino stated in the last week we brought you on Sunday afternoon a very special show. I couldn't do it and I was very upset about it because I've been reaching out to this man and I've liked this man, I've spoken to this man, I've met this man, I know this man. Anyway, he went out on an impossible mission from New York. He went to Milan to eat some quality Italian food. And thank you. And then from Milan, he went on what looked like the Mission Impossible 7. I think we're up to 7 in the sequels. He went out to the Ukraine. He was fighting a guy that hadn't lost in about 34 fights for the WBA welterweight championship of the world. Really, it looked like a payday, except for this man didn't believe it was a payday. He refused to read the script. He refused to even look at the script. He tore the script up. He got in the ring. Between rounds, he was tweeting. and he won the world title against all the odds. He's been back in New York. He's been celebrating in New York City. He's now out in Las Vegas. And it's a delight to welcome back on the line the brand new WBA welterweight champion of the world, friend of the show, Paulie Malignaggi. Hey, Paulie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. Paulie, congratulations for last week. I know that you knew you could do it, and you went out and you've done the business. You're back in Vegas now. Obviously, you shared the ring with Cotto. You know enough about Mayweather. Does it feel like a big fight to you out there, Paulie, now?
Oh yeah, this is a big fight. I'm very excited about the fight tomorrow night. I'm getting ready to go to the weigh-in soon. I mean, I think this is going to be a very competitive fight. And I know a lot of people are picking Mayweather, and obviously he's the clear-cut favorite. But Miguel Cotto is no slouch. I think it's a very good fight. Yeah.
Do you think that? I mean, I've been talking to people who have been inside the Mayweather camp, and they're saying that he's never trained like this. This is the hardest he's trained. Do you think it suddenly dawned on him that this is not a Cotto that's suffering? This is not a Cotto that's at the end. This is a Cotto that's rediscovered something since that revenge fight against Margarito.
Yeah, you know, I mean, psychologically, it was a good win for Cotto to get in his last fight to beat Margarito and get that revenge. But also, just on the overall analysis, Miguel Cotto is a complete fighter. I mean, he's not just a guy who's a puncher. I mean, he can box, he can pressure you, he can disrupt your timing, he can disrupt your rhythm. He's very dirty. He knows how to fight in the trenches. He can rough you up and take away your rhythm. He's got a very underrated, very strong jab. I mean, he's got a jab that's harder than some people's right hands. Trust me, I felt it. I mean, he's got a very heavy jab. And, you know, he's not just a guy who's, say, like a Marcos Maidana who can punch. He's going to try to wear you down. Miguel Cotto knows how to fight. And that's, I think, what makes this fight intriguing is Mayweather, we already knows how to fight. But Cotto is not just a guy who's going to come in and pressure him like a blind man. He knows how to fight as well.
Now, Paulie, so you're expecting, like I am, a fight tomorrow, a proper fight. Not Mayweather establishing a bit of distance and then boxing comfortably for 12. You're expecting, like me, a fight.
Yeah, one thing you have to realize about Miguel Cotto, he's got 37 wins, 2 losses, I believe his record is. Even in his 2 losses, the 2 guys who beat him had to work.
Yes.
There is not an easy night with Miguel Cotto. When you get in the ring with Miguel Cotto, whether you win or whether you lose, after the fight is over, you're in the dressing room and you know you had to work that night. You know, some guys, you know, the guys you beat and it's just an easy night in the office. You know. But when you fight Miguel Cotto, it's never an easy night at the office. You may beat him. Obviously, he's been beaten twice, but it's never an easy night at the office. And so I think Floyd Mayweather is going to understand that, you know, I think he already does understand if they're telling you he's trained so hard. Yeah. I think he understands that this is a very tough fight. You know, even the way he's talked about Cotto, he hasn't talked as much trash as he usually does.
Not at all.
He said he respects Miguel Cotto and things of that nature. I've also heard through the grapevine that he brought in Gamboa to ask him little secrets about this new trainer Miguel Cotto has, this Cuban trainer. So, you know, the curiosity to even wonder about the trainer, to bring in Gamboa and ask him these questions, you know, and obviously that's just a rumor that I heard, but still, if that's true, you know, there are things that are in Miguel and Floyd Mayweather's mind about this fight. So, you know, Mayweather's an excellent fighter, and rightfully he should be the favorite, but I think even he knows this is a very tough fight.
No, I think even he does know it's a very tough fight. What about Miguel Cotto? You know, you shared the ring with him. I'm sure you've been around him. Is he the kind of guy that might let, not necessarily the occasion get to him, but might possibly try too hard? Is there any chance of that? Even at this level, it can happen, Paulie.
Yeah, of course, it definitely can happen, and I believe Miguel wants this very bad. This is a fight that can really make his legacy if he wins it, you know. So he definitely wants his bad. But Miguel Cotto has been a part of many big promotions. I mean, anybody that's fought Miguel Cotto at Madison Square Garden knows it's a huge event every single time. Every single time Miguel fights at Madison Square Garden, I mean, the event is huge. The crowd is so loud you can't even hear yourself think every time you fight him in that building. So he's been a part of these mayhem type of fights, these crazy atmospheric type of fights. So I know the atmosphere will be mayhem again tomorrow night, I believe, but I don't think Miguel Cotto is a rookie to these kind of fights, like, say, Victor Ortiz was, who was a talented kid. Absolutely. I think the event kind of overwhelmed it. Miguel Cotto is a 31-year-old man who's been part of many very big events, including the Manny Pacquiao fight. So I think from that perspective, I don't think we have to worry about Miguel Cotto. You know, I think he's a veteran of this game, and he's a veteran of big events.
So would you say, in your opinion, Paulie, the new champion of the world once again, would you say, in your opinion, that we're going to be watching something special? That this is going to be a proper fight?
Yeah, I'll put it like this. I'll be very surprised if it's not a proper fight. Good. I'll be very surprised.
Listen, Paul, it's been an absolute delight and a pleasure talking to you. Perhaps we'll try and reach you again at the weigh-in, because that's always fun and the adrenaline's pumping. Paulie Malignaggi, the new WBA welterweight champion of the world. Thank you. Thanks very much. I tell you what, one thing that's emerging, Dean, not just from the two conversations here, but from other people I'm talking to, is the idea that this is going to be a special event. This is not going to be a safety-first romp for Mayweather. It's going to be a fight, as I think Paulie summed it up. Even if you beat Miguel Cotto, you know you've been in a fight when you get back to the changing room.
Well, it's like we said earlier on, Steve. I mean, the common denominator here has got to be Manny Pacquiao again.
Yeah.
Because Cotto knows a great performance and a victory will force it, and Floyd knows he's not only got to win, he's got to look good doing it. He's got to do a proper job on him. He wants to improve and do a better job than Pacquiao. So once again, there's the common denominator. I believe that's the common denominator driving them both on in this fight.
And the whole thing with that fight, just to remind people, is that it's been discussed since 2007, 2008, and then we had the situation where Mayweather wasn't going to come out of retirement. Then he did come out of retirement after 22 months. Then we had the situation where he was calling for all sorts of enhanced drug testing, which we're led to believe that all parties have agreed to, and where we're led at the moment is we understand that Mayweather wants more than 50%. He doesn't want parity. He doesn't want to split it down the middle, and Pacquiao and his people are saying we need to split it down the middle. Well, of course, what would help Mayweather's hand is if he did a job, obviously, on Cotto. So there's a lot more at stake here than the couple of baubles that have been thrown in by the WBA and the WBC and the $32 million he's guaranteed. What's at stake here is the $50 million plus he'd pocket comfortably from a Pacquiao fight.
Exactly. I mean, him and Pacquiao, you know, it's a $100 million plus fight, isn't it? And it's like we keep saying, Steve, that's what's on the line for both of them.
Yeah. For both of them, yeah, let's not forget that. Cotto as well, and sometimes we overlook Cotto. We're all guilty of it. The press have been guilty of it. The people I've spoken to this week have been guilty of it. We've probably been guilty of it this week. If we had one of those things that Sky have got that goes up the middle of the screen, I don't mean Johnny Nelson, if we had one of those things that divides the football, then today's match would probably be Mayweather United, 80%, and it would be Cotto City, 20%. Anyway, we'll go to a break, but first, here's a little bit of Puerto Rico's finest, Miguel Angel Cotto.
Puerto Rican star Miguel Cotto.
Puerto Rico's favorite sport is boxing, and he is boxing in Puerto Rico.
Miguel Cotto has emerged. There's a new superstar in Puerto Rico.
One of the most celebrated prospects in the sport.
Left hook and a straight right hand by Cotto.
One of the most prominent fighters in the sport.
Excellent uppercut by Cotto.
One of the most dramatic figures in boxing.
Good left by Cotto. Three-punch combination.
He fights in a violent, entertaining style.
Left hook knocks the mouthpiece out of Foreman's mouth. Cotto stands his ground and rips him with a left hook to the chin.
Miguel Cotto specializes in knocking people out.
Down goes Cotto. Hurts Judah with the right hand. Judah goes to a knee.
Congratulations on a sensational performance.
Miguel's is back.
Good combination by Cotto. And again.
It's a different chapter in my career.
And he continues to crash away at Judah. Left, right, left to the body. Continued assault from the Puerto Rican star. Cotto looking for the kill. Knockout.
To all the crowd here, thanks a lot. I love you.
taking advantage of what you saw as a flaw.
You know what I'm going to do? Because you don't ever give me a fair shake. You know that? So I'm going to go and let you talk to Victor Ortiz, all right? I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know about boxing. You ain't you're not.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
You won't do
Oh yes, that was feisty. Tomorrow night will be feisty inside the ropes, hopefully with no 70-year-old men getting in the way of each other's fists. Subscribe now if you want to watch Cotto against Mayweather, a fight that was first talked about in late 2007, and then of course Mayweather retired and Cotto took an option to fight a guy called Antonio Margarito, and the rest, well, as they say in the trade, it's history. So remember, if you want to watch this with us live tomorrow, when I'll be on that sofa, Jim Rosenthal will be here. We'll be up all night. We start off with the German Captain Hook against Stretham's Ola Afolabi. We had a couple more fights in Germany, including the vacant European heavyweight title between Dimitrenko and Pulev, and the world title. Stieglitz is going to be defending his WBO super middleweight title against Hamdan from Australia, who's seasoned. That's what he is. He's seasoned. That's a good bill. Then we go to the big daddy bill all the way from Las Vegas. Obviously, the chief supporting contest could hold its own in any era on any night as a main event, and that's the unbeaten young Mexican Alvarez, Canelo as he's nicknamed, who turned pro I think when he was 15 years of age, against Shane Mosley, who seems to have been around forever and ever. And of course the main event is Cotto against Mayweather. It's a case of legacies on the line, reputations on the line, and legendary status up for grabs, and a couple of belts from different sanctioning bodies down in South and Central America. Now, a couple of years ago, one of our British fighters accepted an offer to go and fight Miguel Angel Cotto. It was at Madison Square Garden, where, as Paulie Malignaggi was saying, if you fight Miguel Angel Cotto there, boy, oh boy, you're not just taking on one Puerto Rican, you're taking on 20,000 of them. I'm delighted to welcome to the show former British champion from Chorley, and a man who I still owe 63 quid to, Michael Jennings.
How's it going, Steve? You right,
yeah, fantastic, Michael. Michael, do you always take an interest whenever Cotto's fighting because of your shared history?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, I've been in the ring with him, so I just wish him all the best all the time. When he fights, I always want him to win. Like some people probably think because he stopped me, I want him to get beat. But nah, I want him to. I'm hoping that he's going to win tomorrow on Saturday, Sunday morning for us. Do you think he can win? I mean, obviously, because most people don't seem to think he can. Are you wishing, or do you actually think, you know what, he can do it because of X, Y, or Z? He can beat Mayweather. Do you think that seriously? Well, I think, don't get me wrong, he's got his work cut out, but I think out of all the guys at that weight at the minute, I think if anyone could do it, it could be Cotto, yeah. But like I say, I think you've got to look towards Mayweather. But
I think you have got to look towards Mayweather. Now, when you fought Cotto, I got a lot of stick by saying, listen, I'm not saying Michael Jennings is going to win the fight, but I think he can be in the fight, and I think he can pressurise the fight. And that was based on, the fact that you're a good fighter, but it was also based on the fact that people forget this, that it was in his previous fight, the fight before you, that he took the beating from Margarito, which turns out to be, questionably controversial. So when you took it, was that also on your mind, thinking, you know what, I know he's a great fighter, but he's just taking a shellacking from hell?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't think that. If anything, I thought because he'd taken that beating, he'd want to prove himself against me, sort of thing. And, to be fair, that's what he did. From then on, he's gone on to be even better than what he was previous to that fight, I think, personally.
No, there was certainly something. There was something about the way he boxed on Box Nation last year against Margarito, Michael. That was almost poetical. It was a flawless performance against the guy who was dangerous in the ring. But as I mentioned earlier on to Dean Powell, who's sitting here, I think he was possibly still inside Cotto's head.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was demons. He had demons with Margarito, and you know, I think everyone has Cotto down as just as a fighter, but you know, he proved that night that he can also box. He's a master boxer. If anything, he's a really good boxer as well as a bit of a brawler as well. He can mix them both.
You know, it's interesting. Paulie Malignaggi was talking earlier on, Michael, and he was saying, you know, too many people think that Miguel Angel Cotto is just a knockout specialist, just a banger, just a brawler. But you know, in that fight against Margarito, he boxed beautifully. Against Malignaggi, he used his brain. But you also discover once you got in the ring that he just had brilliant ability, could cut down the ring if I'm not mistaken. He was there when you didn't think he would be, and he was gone when you think he would be there. I mean, you were stunned by that, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've watched Cotto as a fan anyway, you know, years before, and then I found out I was going to be fighting him, and then I watched him, and to be fair, he's very on tape he's deceiving, because you think, you know, why is he as good as what he is? It's actually when you're in there that you realise you'd throw a jab, it'd make you miss, he'd just take a step back by half an inch, just make you miss by half an inch, and then he'd just come back with a boom, you know, solid. And I mean, it's a good left jab what he's got. Obviously, you know, he's a natural southpaw, but he boxes orthodox, so his left hand's his strongest. But his jab and his left up to the body are pinpoint accurate, deep. Yeah. And I think personally that's what makes him as good as what he is. It's his accuracy. He doesn't waste nothing, don't waste no energy. And the way he cuts you down, it makes you feel like you're in a like a 4-foot ring, you know, because brilliant. Obviously when I normally box, I'm always on my back foot. People want to cut me down, but I can get away from him. But with Cotto, he was so good at that. He was so good at making you feel like he was in a telephone box. You know, he was definitely miles ahead of anyone else that I'd ever seen.
And no shame in that. He made you feel like you were in a 4-foot ring. Listen, Michael, thanks for finding time tonight, and I will give you one day, when I get it from Jim Bentley, the producer, that 63 quid. Michael Jennings, thank you.
Nice one, mate. Cheers.
See you later, Mike. I like Michael Jennings a lot, I really do. So Dean, I tell you, we're building a bit of a case here, a bit of a Cotto case, not necessarily for victory, but we're painting a different picture of Cotto than most people have. This guy that just goes forward face first. You know, we're painting a picture that he can move, as Michael was quick to stress. And also Paulie Malignaggi, I mean, he was fantastic with his analysis, saying that, you know, this guy's a boxer. He hits you with a jab and it's better than most people's right hands. Now, that's something, because obviously he's going to be bigger as well, Cotto. That's something that could bring something different to Mayweather's reactions. Yeah, well,
I think obviously he's got to do what he's got to do. I think head movement will be the key, and also it'll be interesting to see if he can close the gap down a little bit. Obviously,
he's going to have to, isn't he? Otherwise, he's going to be
he's going to have to do that, but also, you know, let's not forget that the walk-in style, the maybe swinging style, the slashing style, may just be perfect for Mayweather. Yeah. Steve, you know, like we've said all night long, this is a great fight.
Yeah, it is a great fight, and that is the style that I think is going to cause Mayweather the most problems. But that wasn't really what we saw last year when Margarito finally back from his ban. He had a fight in Texas, but that didn't really count. Finally back from his ban, and him and Miguel Angel Cotto agreed to fight each other. The face-off with Mighty Max Kellerman was sensational, and I don't often praise that slow-speaking boxing journalist, but I got to on this occasion because the face-off, Max, was fantastic. Then it came to the fight. Well, it was a virtuoso performance from Cotto. Madison Square Garden, December, live and exclusive with us here on Box Nation. This is Antonio Margarito against Miguel Angel Cotto. We'll go to that fight. We will go to that fight in a minute. Jim Bentley just screamed. I thought he'd found the 63 quid. He hasn't. Instead, he's managed to find a legendary Hall of Fame trainer, a man that's been in more big fights possibly than any other trainer in modern history. And I'm delighted to welcome to the show a man who's going to be having his own boxing clinic in Las Vegas on Sunday, but has taken time off from preparing his notes tonight. Please, a special Box Nation welcome for Emanuel Steward. Manny, Mr. Steward, Manny.
How you doing, man? I love that intro.
Yeah, listen, I'll do my best, Manny. Manny, listen, for a start, first of all, thanks very much for seeing us. We've been talking to different people on the show tonight who have shared the ring with both fighters and have watched both fighters prepare. And there's all sorts of pictures being painted. And one thing that's coming across is that that Mayweather needs to be very mindful, very careful of Cotto's boxing skills. Is that a fair comment, Manny?
I am very, very happy to hear someone make that comment. I'm doing interviews here, and I'm very surprised at the odds of like 7-1. It's very misleading. I think the fight should be a 7-5 for Mayweather at best. I think it's a very competitive fight. Yep. It's unfortunate that Miguel Cotto is only remembered by his 2 loss fights. You know, so that's misleading. The loss that he had to Margarita and to Pacquiao is what everyone thinks about. They forget about his wins and his great performance in the amateur and Olympics and his boxing ability. And I think that right now, at this particular point in time, is where he's mentally and physically very, very well prepared. And he is, as they label the fight, a ring king. He is still a star performer. Yeah. And I think that Mayweather may have overlooked him to some degree. And I myself feel that's a very extremely competitive fight that I could even possibly see Cotto winning. You'd have to favor Floyd because of his winning record and, you know, so and so and so. But he's become a tremendous big attraction, not so much from his performances in the ring as much as this 24/7 show that we do over here, where he became a big star from that and became a big attraction. But nevertheless, I think that Miguel Cotto is going to be his maybe toughest fight since Jose Luis Castillo about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago, the one that most people tend to think that Castillo was unlucky not to receive the decision in. One of the problems I see, Manny, and I don't know what you think about this, is that at some point Cotto will have to take risks and try and close that gap down, and that's when he leaves himself open to the type of counters that so horribly beat our very own Ricky Hatton a couple of years ago.
Well, I think Miguel Cotto is going to have to take some risks. But in all fairness to Ricky, too, I would say that Ricky seemed to have been really handicapped by the actions of the referee. And he started to crowd and pressure Mayweather. The referee, I thought, totally unfairly started to messing with him and doing things. And Ricky became so emotionally enraged that he felt almost in a rage the rest of the fight without thinking, and totally burned himself out physically and mentally. But I don't think that Ricky was treated fairly by the referee in that particular fight either. But and by the 10th round, he was totally mentally and physically fatigued.
Good point.
But in this particular fight, I think that Miguel is going to have to take some risks and have to force, if he can, Mayweather to get out of his comfort zone.
Yes.
And try to create a situation much like he did in the Lab Judah type fights, where he can make it a physical brawl to some degree. And Floyd won't have the time to think and fight such a technical fight. But to be able to do that, he's going to have to take some risks.
Yeah. And you say force Floyd to A, come out of his comfort zone, and B, maybe take his own risk. Let me ask you this, Manny, and thanks very much for your time. I know you're a busy man and an in-demand man. Let me ask you this. You've been obviously in Vegas with massive fights over the years, some of the biggest fights that we've seen in Vegas over the last 30-odd years. You know, when you come out of your hotel room, man, and you walk to the elevator and you come downstairs and you go and sit in the coffee shop, if you close your eyes, does it feel like it did 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 20 years ago? Is this big fight, big time Las Vegas?
Well, it's a big time fight, but it doesn't have still the energy and excitement that I've had in some of the fights, you know, that we've had. Sure. I mean, one of the biggest fights was energy, believe it or not, Ricky Hatton. Yeah, and because of the excitement of the British fans, in fact, they connected with me when I was leaving from Detroit, coming to Vegas, and there was a lot of them that was coming from London that, the connection was to Detroit, and they just took over the whole plane. It was supposed to stay in the coach, and I was in first class, and they kept coming up talking. They was drinking and singing, and I just told the lady that was in the steward, I said, leave them alone. We just had a ball, but there was a lot of energy in the town for that. I don't see that type of energy.
Okay.
But Miguel has a big following of Puerto Ricans that are coming in here, and it's going to be a crowd that's going to be, I think, maybe even 50% or even more for Cotto if they actually allow gate. And I feel the excitement, but not when I've done some of the big fights I've had,
Well, listen, Manny, good luck with your coaching clinic on the Sunday. And by the way, I've got Dean Powell in the studio. He says hello to you as well. Manny,
the great Dean Powell.
The great, listen,
Dean trained in Detroit even.
Yeah, I know. He's got the track suit that you gave him to prove it. Manny Steward, legendary trainer, friend of the show. Thanks very much for being on the show.
Okay, my pleasure, Steve.
Yeah, see you, Manny. Thank you very much indeed. Top man. Now remember, if you want to be part of this tomorrow from 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have to subscribe. You've got to subscribe to watch all the fights we put out, our 12, 15 fights a year, a month. But for this one, you better get in quick because it gets busy. It really gets busy. And also remember, we might have some really big stuff coming up in the summer. This is big enough though, isn't it? Mayweather, Cotto, legendary status up for grabs. Dino, we're getting close to the end of this segment of the show. You're going to go off and I'm going to be joined later on by someone different as we go over the weigh-in itself. Okay, but looking at it now, and you've heard Manny there, Manny's making a bit of a case for Miguel to at least push the fight. So do you see that? Do you see that we are gonna end up with a fight here tomorrow night, a big one?
Yeah, and I think obviously Emanuel must take a lot of credit for Cotto reinventing himself.
Of course.
Obviously working with him up until very, very liberally.
Working with his feet.
Recently. And, I'm sure that... I'm not so sure if it's a mistake by Cotto to bring in a new trainer because, like we spoke about previously, Steve, this could be the night that Miguel Cotto needs Emanuel Steward because, like Manuel said, he's going to have to take chances to get Floyd into the uncomfortable situation where he's got to stand and have a fight. He's got to take chances and he's got to remain cool when he's doing it, and that's where Emanuel is very, very good in the corner.
He certainly is. Now, there is one fight on the undercard, the chief support, whatever you want to call it. We've mentioned it a few times. We haven't really looked at it. It involves Shane Mosley. He's one of the best modern fighters from the last 20-odd years. And it involves a guy called Canelo Alvarez, a young kid from Mexico, 21, I think he still is. He may be 22. He's unbeaten, turned pro at 15, won the world title last March, won it in Los Angeles. No Mexicans in Los Angeles, is there by any chance? Wouldn't be an intimidating atmosphere, would it, by any chance? And a man in the other ring. And I tell you what, he was as cool as a cucumber. Cool as the proverbial pensioner walking her poodle along the Regent's Canal. That man, I'm delighted to say, joins me on the line now. Matthew Hatton, thank you.
How you doing, Steve? I love the introduction.
No, listen, Matt, I'll do a nicer one for you every time you come on the show, don't worry.
I know it gets better and better, pal.
Well, listen, then that's what you've done with age. You've got better and better with age. Matthew, you're in the ring with Canelo Alvarez. You went the 12 rounds. You were there the whole time. What most impressed you about what he did or what was about him, Matthew?
The thing that was what really impressed me, Steve, was... it wasn't really the power that troubled me in the fight, but he was just phenomenally strong. The strength of the man was unbelievable, really. So physically strong. And another thing that really stood out was his accuracy. Very, very accurate. With his shots, wastes very little. And I think a great fighter, and I think it won't be long before he's up there pushing the pound for pounders.
Yeah, they're pushing the pound for pound. And I think this is the tricky fight with Mosley, simply because, it's that expression, Matthew, last roll of the dice. Well, with Mosley at this level, surely this is the last. And that makes him a little bit dangerous, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, Mosley is one of my favourite fighters. I've always been a big fan of Mosley, and like you're saying, he is drinking in the Last Chance Saloon. But I think in his last few fights, you know, I remember, you know, Mosley with the blinding speed and the Mosley of old. And I think in his last few fights, even though he's been fighting at the very top level, I think he's been a shell of himself the last few fights. Yeah. But like that, you know, people always say, you know, great fighters always have one last crack in them, and hopefully that will be the case with Shane. But I just can't see it. I think in his last few fights, he's slipped quite considerably, really. Yeah. And you know, Golden Boy, the biggest and best promoters out there, I think they know Mosley better than anyone, and they know this is the perfect fight at the perfect time. You know, Mosley's still a massive name. And I think Alvarez, I think it'll be a good fight, an entertaining fight, and you know Mosley will have his moments in the fight, but I do think Alvarez will unfortunately pull the curtain down on his career, to be honest.
Now, Matthew, did you get sort of any sense of the person, what kind of kid really I suppose Alvarez is? Is he the type of kid do you think that will want to make an impression to, you know, against Mosley, knowing that he's up against Cotto and Mayweather, which is a hell of a thing to be up against? Do you think he might want to try and make a statement and try and get Mosley out of there?
I think so, Steve. I mean, he's a very patient fighter, you know, which is incredible, really, for a fighter of that age. You know, he's so patient, but you know, the juices will be flowing for this fight. You know, Mosley's by far the biggest name he'll have fought. He'll have grown up watching Mosley on the TV and admiring him, and to get the chance to get in there and possibly you know, beat him and end his career. You know, he'll be well up for this. I think he'll be very patient in the fight. Because that's just his manner. But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, Steve. He'll be wanting to go in there with Mosley still being a big name. It's on a great bill, and he'll really want it be to make a statement, because I believe that he thinks he's not too far away from challenging the likes of Mayweather and Pacquiao, and in my opinion, he's right there. So yeah, I think he'll want to make a statement against Mosley. I'm sure he would. Listen, Matthew, it's always a pleasure and a delight talking to you, and you know there's a seat on this white sofa if ever you're in the London area on Monday. You know that, son. Matthew, listen, say hello to your family for me. Matthew, enjoy the fights tomorrow night. Matthew Hatton, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. See ya. Dino, Alvarez, just quickly, I think he'll want to make a statement against Mosley. That's my gut feeling. Yeah, I think he will. It's a good scout, brother. Yeah, I think, again, I think the timing is just right for him. He's obviously on the slide, Mosley. As Matthew rightly pointed, you know, sometimes everybody's got one last great night, but I don't think it's going to be that. And I think what we're going to see tomorrow night is the next step on the ladder for Alvarez. I think he's going to go up, because, you know, it's obviously they're building him for superstardom. Yeah, it is. It's that fight before it, isn't it? And the other two are already there. Thanks very much to Dean Powell. Thanks to all of our guests tonight. Manny Steward, of course, Malignaggi, Stevie Lillis, and, of course, Matty Hatton. I'm back at 10:30 with the weigh-in show. But remember, you've got to subscribe. See me. See it. See you in a minute.
Floyd Mayweather is the undefeated king of boxing.
I rule the ring. This is my king.
Another big right kick. Mayweather makes him pay. Miguel Cotto is the super welterweight king from Puerto Rico.
I will beat Floyd Mayweather.
Cotto looking for the kill. On Saturday, May 5th at the MGM Grand, will Cotto keep his crown, or will Mayweather rule the kingdom?
Miguel Cotto, you're getting knocked out.
I will become the new king.
Ring Kings, Mayweather Cotto, Canelo Mosley, Saturday, May 5th.